I saw that my brother, he has a restoration company. I was like, dude, there's like 8 restoration companies in the region. Like, I'm going to call every single restoration company in this entire region. And then that's where that sales came in. And I called them and I was like, look, I know how to estimate your jobs. I know how to get them through buyout with the insurance. I know how to do the work because I general managed all of the work for his restoration company prior. So we started raking in these leads. Like, a roofing company it's not a roofing company until you have a sale. And you don't have a sale until you have a lead.
Was that your first 2 hires, was general manager? And
my first hire was a bookkeeper. Okay. Then second hire was a project manager. And third hire was like a running guy. Like, he was in a truck running materials place.
Like, so how did you transition into
it? So transitioning into retail started with siding for us. It was a secondary trade. We had to jump into it because it snowed. So we couldn't roof anymore. It was still insurance based though. But siding has a slight difference. When you jump into siding, there's a lot more art to the sale because the wife is more involved.
Are you stuck in that $3 to $10 million year-over-year revenue? Roofs in a Box is your all-in-one growth partner for modern construction companies. They combine AI, virtual staffing, and CRM solutions to help streamline operations. Replace your high fixed overhead with cost-effective systems and support. They empower you to run a smarter, leaner business, freeing up capital where it matters most. Mention this ad to save 10% on your next Roofs in a Box purchase. This episode of Pain Points is brought to you by Ringba. If your business relies on phone calls, you need to be working with them. Their technology will help you get the most money out of your marketing campaigns. Their call exchange, Ringba X, can deliver inbounds on demand to help grow your customer base. Now, I want to be transparent. Ringba and Adam did pay me to deliver that message, but I'm also a customer, and I've watched them help dozens of companies become more successful over the years. So if you sell a product or service over the phone, I guarantee a moment with their team will be worth it. All right, welcome to another episode of Pain Points, where real pain equals real growth. Today we're at Affiliate Summit East, and we're with a good friend and partner, Cody Klinger with CCX Roofing.
That's right. Thanks, Ed.
All right, welcome to the pod, brother.
Yeah, it's fun.
So the first question is, a lot of my viewers, or at least the audience I'm trying to reach, are people that are trying to grow and scale in this space, especially around home services and construction.
Sure.
So I kind of want to just start like where you got started, and then kind of the early challenges that you had to navigate through. And one, just to get going, and then two, when did you first realize that you had a real business? So I know it's a loaded question, but
that's a very valid question. I think to answer that specific question directly, you don't have a business until you have a sale, period. Like, you can write a business name on a paper, go to the state, register it, all that stuff. Great. Like, wonderful. You can design a logo. You can go through all that stuff, but it doesn't matter. Not until you sell. So I would say that the answer directly to that is you don't have a business until you have sold a product, period.
So what's the first product you sold? How old were you? And when did that?
First product I sold was probably the arguments, I've had with my mom. No, I'm just messing. Did I not steal the cookies, or did my brother steal them and then give them to me? No, I'm just messing. I think first product I sold was probably insulation. We were selling it on rebate. Okay. And so the power company in our local area was doing rebates for energy savings. And so we would go knock on their door and we would talk to them about getting insulation so that they could save money on their energy costs. And
was this under your own brand, or was it working for the man?
No, yeah, it was working for my brother, actually.
Okay.
So, and I did most of my early career, I did mostly work with my brothers. I have 4 brothers, 5 total boys in the family. And my oldest brother had an insulation company. My second oldest brother had a restoration company. And not at the same time, but at the early stages, Austin had an insulation company, and we sold door to door. And so I'd get up in the hot attic and measure how much insulation someone had, and then give them more insulation. And then they would turn in that invoice to the power company, and and then get a rebate so it was actually a pretty sweet sale.
So
Pretty easy.
you strike me as like what I call a true hunter, somebody that can just strike up conversation.
Sure.
Love to talk to strangers and
Yeah.
random people. So with the hunter mentality, what was it like your first blood in the water that you had with yourself? Did you know sales were for you? Did you know that this is what you wanted to do?
You know, I would say that the blood in the water came after I had to provide for my family.
Okay.
Because prior, like when I was selling insulation on rebate, I mean, I had drive and I was excited to get out there, meet new people, and actually close that sale. But so, I don't know, something inside me changed when I saw when I knew that my woman back home had to be taken care of. And then when I had my first son, it was just like even more like, it's no longer about like, hey, it's cool to get a sale. It's like valid. It's very important. So at that point, it became very easy to work, right? Like knocking doors when I was a young teenager on the doors, like I was driven and I was really good at it. I like talking to people and I like people in general, but man, something just really awoke in me when someone was at home depending on me. So that was a big deal.
So let's fast forward a little bit. So you're into sales, you have a family. When did you first take that leap as far as saying, you know what, I'm going to try this entrepreneurial thing?
That is a great question. And I love that question. I was working for, I sold for my brother's insulation company. He went and did a different thing. So I switched gears, served a mission for my church, came back from my church, worked for my brother's restoration company. During that time working for him, I had a great job, had some unfinished promises that didn't really pan out. And so I didn't see those coming true fruition. So I talked to my wife and say, hey, Rach, I'm not sure what are the long-term goals for us? I don't want to sound conceited, but I knew I was going to be bigger than I was. And so then when I jumped in,
real quick.
Yeah.
Has she always supported you on your entrepreneurial dream?
Oh man.
Was there concerns going
on? Oh dude, when I was 21 or 20, so my wife and I got married young. I was in college. I was in a basic economics class, just getting my generals to go to further college to try to be a doctor, actually. And I got through my third semester and I was listening to this economics professor talk about GDP. And I literally sat there and I said, I can have a bigger impact on people around me to just leave this classroom and go and do something on my own. Now, I don't expect everyone to like agree with that statement. And I don't really subscribe that that's like the best thing for everyone. I left that classroom and I came home and I was like, hey, Rachel, I just dropped out of college. And dude, she looked at me like, I'm going to kill you. Like she was so pissed. And that's fine. I can understand why she was so angry with me at that time. Super supportive. My wife has been amazing and the rock of my entire life since I've married her and since we've been together. And
she's a rock star.
She is so amazing. I would say that, so to answer your question, absolutely yes. 100%. My wife has been behind me. And that I would say, 95% of my success comes because I know that there's a woman at home who loves me, and that I know that I can fall back into her arms, and she knows she's got me, man. So you
got the wife support. You got out of college, and so you start your own thing,
right? Worked for my brother for a little while. That didn't pan out. Kind of goes back to like I knew I was going to be bigger, so I decided like, hey, if I'm really going to do that, then I got to figure out where I'm going to do that. I worked construction my whole life growing up, and like from 12 to about 16 years old, I was just doing odd jobs and different trades and things like that. So I had a good understanding of what I would do. And so I just said, you know what, I'm just going to go put a white t-shirt on and jeans and go to Home Depot and talk to every single person. And that's where I started, genuinely. So, I already knew how to sell door to door. I had that rapport with a lot of people. That wasn't hard for me. I knew enough to get really dangerous. And then I found this random guy in the fencing aisle in Boise, Idaho, and he needed a fence. And I was like, I can build a fence. So he's like, how much do you want for this fence? I'm like, I don't know. So I was like, intrinsic value of the fence had never really crossed my mind, but I knew I could do it. So Yeah, I went to his house and he's like, "Hey, I'll pay you X," and I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds good." And so I did it. It was like the most crooked fence on earth.
All right. So let's fast forward a little bit more. So what got you into roofing? When did you realize?
Yeah.
Because obviously you're good with your hands.
Yeah.
I know you have a background of actually building roofs.
Sure.
You actually ran crews before you had a roofing company.
Yeah.
When did it finally come to fruition where you're just like, okay, I'm going to start a roofing company?
Yeah. We needed to be making some more money. After I started, like I went white t-shirt on and jeans only works for so long to pay the bills. When your wife has aspirations and you need to give her new shoes, I mean, you can't just be doing some random person's fence and then random pothole here and there and then like fixing some cabinets and, handyman work wasn't panning out. We were praying real hard. God had a lot to do with it. And then there was a hailstorm that hit Idaho Falls, just an hour north of where we live. And previous to that storm hitting, I worked for my brother's restoration company. Okay. So I was an estimator and a project manager and a general manager of his branches. I ran his Idaho Falls branch. I started his Boise branch. And so I was well versed in insulation or in insurance. And so I was estimating for insurance. That hailstorm hit. And immediately like that week we had like 100 leads right away that needed to be estimated for my brother. Prior to that, I had quit his company because I needed to some unfinished promises. I don't want to get into those details, but just it wasn't panning out. So we left and I was working odd jobs. And then he called me back and he's like, "Hey, Cody, like I need you back bad. Like I have too much work. We need to fix all these roofs and I need you to estimate these jobs." So I was like, "Look, I will not be coming back unless you pay me per estimate as a subcontractor, basically." Because I'm like, "Dude, I'm not going to get roped into a wage. It's not going to pay me enough." So I said, and that is a very nerve-wracking experience. Like when I quit, the day I quit, I came home. I had left. He was providing me a truck, a phone, a wage, stability. I came back to my house that night. And I was like, "Rachel, I don't have a job." Straight up. And we had like $5,000 in our bank account, period. Better than some people, but.
Yeah, no, it's definitely nerve-wracking.
Sure.
Family.
Sure. So, that next day, I was super excited to go out on my own, trying to find someone to get to do work for. That fence paid me marginal and we were eking by, but then just hailstorm hit Idaho Falls. That opportunity with my brother he called and I was like, "Here's this opportunity."
And then that just was a launch pad to get you.
Right. So immediately I saw that my brother, he has a restoration company. I was like, "Dude, there's like 8 restoration companies in the region. Like I'm going to call every single restoration company in this entire region." And then that's where that sales came in. And I called them and I was like, "Look, I know how to estimate your jobs. I know how to get them through buyout with the insurance. I know how to do the work because I general managed all of the work for his restoration company prior." So we started raking in these leads. Like a roofing company it's not a roofing company until you have a sale, and you don't have a sale until you have a lead. So immediately hundreds of leads coming in and I was like, "Whoa, this is a lot of work." That opening season we did 427 or so roofs. Like it's give or take 10 or 2.
That's substantial.
It was amazing. But we specifically focused on that year. We specifically focused on labor because I knew that I could hire the work, and I sold it quickly because it was labor only. And I basically would go to the restoration company and be like, "Listen, we need to do this really fast. This, if you don't jump on these really fast, they're going to go with some other contractor and you don't know what quality they're going to get. And you're going to lose out on the margin that you could have otherwise had." So I just went to that restoration company. I was like, "Look, how much money do you need to make? And then how much money can you pay me?" So it was a really pretty simple sales, mostly a red split.
We started off on a referral network.
Yep.
So you went out, you did strategic partnerships with different companies in the area. Right. So that was your launch move.
100%.
Right. And during the storm season, which is crazy, but that's not sustainable.
No.
Right. Because there's not storms every year. So tell me about the transition from going to insurance to retail.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, like a lot of companies start with insurance. Yep. But it's not sustainable.
Yeah. Let me ramp into that because there's kind of some movement there to get there, right? So to go from a referral basis to retail, you're trading the liability of doing the work for the simplicity of the lead flow. Like, because I was carrying all the liability of doing all the work. Every single job I touched, I had to make sure it was guaranteed. So that was a lot of liability. That was the risk that I was weighing. Like, is this done properly? And so I could check that box and say, yes, it's done properly. The moment I had that done, and as soon as I could check that box, I knew I could do it for myself. So the referrals were still coming in, and that's good. I went out and I started knocking doors. After those referrals were kind of systemized, I had a general manager and a project manager running those referrals.
Was that your first 2 hires? Was general manager and
my first hire was a bookkeeper.
Okay.
Then the second hire was a project manager, and third hire was like a running guy. Like he was in a truck running materials place.
Actually, I think that's pretty apropos to where my mind goes with it. But if you were going to do it over, would you do the same sequence of hires?
Yes, but I would do it yes. I probably would, honestly. I think I did pretty well with that. I would say that there's a lot that goes into that. I think it really matters, like, what is your referral source, right? For me, it was labor only jobs, immediate fulfillment, right? So I didn't necessarily need any sales reps. I already had the referrals. My first hires, if I was only retail, it would be like straight into sales reps. I would go sales reps and they would have a dual role with project management.
Makes sense.
Because they would need to sell the jobs and fulfill them.
At least
Initially, yeah. So to transition into retail, though, interesting thing happens when, a storm hits an area that's primarily a retail area. You got like 2 years to work on that storm, and then everything else after that is retail. Approximately a year after I started, I realized like I was doing roofing, but I wasn't doing siding. So where I live, it snows. And so we had to stop. We had to stop roofing when it snowed. And I was like, man, I got to keep these people paid. Again, going back to like, hey, when you have people at home depending on you, you got to keep them fed. I don't think people really realize that when they start their company. They don't realize like these people almost become your children. Like you have to provide for them.
Or they think it's forever. They don't realize that like, you got 6 months of income coming.
Yeah.
What are you going to do the other 4 to 6
right.
months? You still got to pay your back end, your ops, your finance people. You can't fire them and hire them every year.
Right. And you almost, there's a moral side of that, right? You can't just be like promising the sun, the moon, and the stars to these people who are depending on you to provide for their family, and then just be like, oh, sorry, it dried up. See ya. Like,
so how did you transition into
So transitioning into retail started with siding for us. It was a secondary trade. We had to jump into it because it snowed. So we couldn't roof anymore. It was still insurance based though. But siding has a slight difference. When you jump into siding, there's a lot more art to the sale because the wife is more involved. She wants it. She's going to see it. The roof really, there's not a whole lot of creativity that happens in a roof. You pick a color, we put it on, that's it. Siding is much different. You got siding colors, you have certain wraps, you got all kinds of different, accessories that you can put on it. So as we jumped into siding, we got more calls from people's friends. And then really jumping into retail is fulfilling other referrals and doing it in such a way where you ask for more referrals. And then quality has to be like to the nines. Like you got to have a perfect call.
Yeah, miss out on asking for the referral.
Yeah, big time. So retail-based work happened for us anyway. It happened after the insurance work dried up. We had to still sell. That's when I started buying sales reps right there because I no longer had that many referrals coming in from insurance. So they were still coming in, but
so I know there's a mixed bag on this from different business owners.
Yeah.
W-2 or 99 retail?
Really good question. Early on, oh man, I can't tell you how many companies try to cheat there and they try to do this like weird hybrid. And then they usually get audited by the state, and then they have this massive work comp audit that they have to pay for, and it's terrible. You got to stay legal. Just stay legal. I don't know if I really care. You could make the argument that if you want high performance, you have to eat what you kill. If you want consistency, you control every aspect of it, right? Well, you can't control every aspect of a 1099, and you don't get a whole lot of power out of a W-2. And I'm not saying that's everyone. It's definitely not everyone, but that's just a general rule of thumb. So on the sales side, I tend to lean on 1099 on sales side. You eat what you kill. You don't eat unless you sell. And that's how we run now. So My salesmen are not paid any base. They're paid only,
But initially, did you run on W-2?
on the project management side, when they are grinding every day and they don't have the capacity to sell, then yes, I do lean on W-2. If they have the capacity to provide for their own family and they don't have to run things day to day, then yeah, it's 1099. That's typically how I run.
Yeah, we run the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, W-2 on the project management operations and whatever, and then sales generally. Yeah.
There are only certain people I let W-2 and have a commission. They're not 1099. They are strictly W-2, but we do reduce their commission because we're paying a salary.
So, couple different questions I'd love to ask most business owners. What's the most expensive lesson or mistake you've made as a business owner?
Oh, that's a good question. Most expensive was not established. I would say the most expensive things that we have that bit us in the butt later. We didn't understand it until we were probably about 5 years in. You helped me understand it quite a bit as well, even further down the road. 5 years in, I realized that people are not going to see what you see unless you clearly define their trajectory. Period. If you don't clearly define the mission, the direction, the niche, if you don't have core values, you basically are putting rats in a cage and saying, go. And they might do a good job, but your company is not ran on any principles. It's only ran on ego. It's me, right? So if I don't give them that, where are they going? Then every day they have to come to Cody and they have to say, hey, Cody, what are we doing today?
I think every entrepreneur that I know, they have to get what's in their head out on paper.
Out on paper.
And then how do you replicate that?
100%. And then I would say just right along with that, like entrepreneurs, I think the biggest paradox in communication is this is a quote. I'm butchering the quote, but the biggest paradox in communication is the illusion that is taking place. I mean, how many times do you like, man, I can't understand why someone doesn't understand how to get from point A to point B. It seems so simple. It seems so easy, but like you didn't communicate it, yet you expect a very specific outcome. Well, of course they didn't get to point B because you didn't communicate a specific outcome. So yeah, it's like you just said, write it down on a piece of paper, make sure it's on a mission statement, have a specific buy box or a niche that you're going after, and then grade them on core values. That goes a long way.
Okay. We're going to have to do another podcast after this at some point. Let's do it. I'm sure we will. Another question is, what's your biggest pearl of wisdom? Like as an entrepreneur, like something that you've taken, something that you just kind of live by.
Yeah.
What would that quote or phrase or lesson that you carry with in all your business?
I would say you attract more honey or more bees with honey. And really that it just means love the people that work for you, express gratitude, a lot of gratitude. It goes a long way. And then really, I think one of the biggest things that is missing in general is validation. Just learn how to validate people, love them, and figure out how they tick.
Yeah, you are a people person.
I love people.
You love it.
Yes, sir.
And they know that. I think that's why people follow you.
Yeah.
Well, once again, Cody Klinger, $10 million plus roofing company, grown, scaling.
Yeah.
So one last question, and then we'll probably do a follow-up podcast at some point. But what's next?
What's next?
What's the end game for you?
CCX is running really well. The roofing company is on track to probably about 30% growth this upcoming year, and I would suppose that it's about that trajectory for the near foreseeable 5 or so year future. I think the next thing, I have a lot of time on my hands. I am looking for the next thing, actually, Ed. Really looking forward to it. Call me.
Yeah, I'm sure
Let's figure it out. I love business. I love people. My favorite thing is simply autonomizing good ideas. I don't really care what it is. I think the next thing's probably related to similar to what we're seeing around here. Probably something like that.
Right on.
So we'll see.
And then last thing for shameless plugs, how do people find you if they're looking for you?
Oh, you just call me. Text me.
Perfect. We'll have a link to his social at the bottom of the pod. Cody Klinger, thank you again.
Yes, sir.
Again, pain points where real pain equals real growth.
Yeah.
Like, subscribe, and comment.
Yeah.
That's it. Appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you.
Are you stuck in that $3 to $10 million year-over-year revenue? Roofs in a Box is your all-in-one growth partner for modern construction companies. They combine AI, virtual staffing, and CRM solutions to help streamline operations. Replace your high fixed overhead with cost-effective systems and support. They empower you to run a smarter, leaner business, freeing up capital where it matters most. Mention this ad to save 10% on your next Roofs in a Box purchase. This episode of Pain Points is brought to you by Ringba. If your business relies on phone calls, you need to be working with them. Their technology will help you get the most money out of your marketing campaigns. Their call exchange, Ringba X, can deliver inbounds on demand to help grow your customer base. Now, I want to be transparent. Ringba and Adam did pay me to deliver that message, but I'm also a customer, and I've watched them help dozens of companies become more successful over the years. So if you sell a product or service over the phone, I guarantee a moment with their team will be worth it.